Determine the left-sided limit and the right-sided limit in the two-sided limit as x approaches 0 of 4x squared plus 2x minus 3 divided by x squared minus 5x. Each of these involves the limit as x approaches 0 of 4x squared plus 2x minus 3 divided by x squared minus 5x. The first thing to do is try plugging a 0 in for each of the x's. That will give 4 times 0 squared plus 2 times 0 minus 3 divided by 0 squared minus 5 times 0. 4 times 0 squared is 0, plus 2 times 0 is 0, and then minus 3, divided by 0 squared is 0, and minus 5 times 0 is 0. 4 times 0 is a 0. 0 minus 3 is a negative 3, divided by 0 minus 0, which is a 0. 0 minus 3 is a negative 3 over 0. The 0 in the denominator is not actually a 0. X is only approaching 0. It never reaches the 0. But a limit result of a non-zero number over 0 is a positive infinity or a negative infinity. The sign of the infinity often depends on the side the limit approaches from. Therefore, we will have to work out each of the one-sided limits separately. We have the left-sided limit indicated by a negative superscript on the 0 of the 4x squared plus 2x minus 3 divided by x squared minus 5x. And we have the right-sided limit indicated by the positive superscript on 0 of the 4x squared plus 2x minus 3 divided by x squared minus 5x. Let's start with the left-sided limit. The first thing to do is to factor the denominator so we can see the factor that is making the 0 in the denominator. The numerator can be left alone. The denominator has a common factor of x, leaving x minus 5. The factor that's making 0 as x approaches 0 is the x. We're approaching from the left side of 0, which means we are a negative number close to 0 and approaching to 0, so x can be replaced with a negative 0 since it's approaching to 0. Every other x can have a 0 put into it, so this will become 4 times 0 squared plus 2 times 0 minus 3 divided by what will be a negative 0, and then times 0 minus 5. 4 times 0 squared is 0, plus 2 times 0 is also 0. So we have 0 plus 0 minus 3 divided by a negative 0 times a 0 minus 5, which is a negative 5. 0 plus 0 minus 3 is a negative 3, over a negative times a negative is a positive, and then 0 times 5 is 0. Now, a negative over a positive is a negative, and a non-zero over a 0 is an infinity. There's the result of the left-sided limit. The right-sided limit can be worked out in a similar fashion. We will want to factor the denominator so we can see the factor that's making 0 in the denominator. This time it's on the right side of 0, so it's a positive number, so we can plug in a positive 0 for the x factor that's making the 0 in the denominator. And a 0 can be plugged in for every other x. So this x will become a positive 0. So we have 4 times 0 squared is a 0, plus 2 times 0 is a 0, then minus 3 divided by a positive 0 times a 0 minus 5 is a negative 5. In the numerator we have a negative 3 over, in the denominator, a positive times a negative is a negative. 0 times 5 is 0. A negative over a negative is a positive. A non-zero over a 0 is an infinity. And there's the result of the right-sided limit. The two-sided limit will depend on the results of the two one-sided limits. They do not match here, and therefore the two-sided limit will be does not exist up here. And there's the results of the three different limits.